Welcome to the Gorgeous Guru podcast. I'm your host, Day, the Gorgeous Guru. Today's episode is entitled Confessions of an Empath because I am an empath, and I want to share some stories about what it's like to truly be empathic. Just to be clear, there's a big difference between having empathy for others and being empathic. Someone who has empathy can put themselves in someone else's shoes, Like, I can imagine how another person is feeling as they go through a particular experience. Being empathic, however, takes things to a whole nother level. An empath is someone who has a heightened ability to sense and absorb the emotions of others. And I do not say that lightly, y'all. When I say absorb the emotions of others, that's exactly what it feels like. As you can imagine, being an empath in this day and age can be very, very difficult, especially with a lot of the heaviness that's in the air currently. Here in the United States, the president has ushered in this energy of chaos and division. Our immigration enforcement agents, or ICE, are targeting and terrorizing citizens and immigrants alike. And the Epstein files have dropped and are now being featured on the news and social media. And some of the stuff that is found within those files is so deplorable, disgusting, and shows how debased some of these people can be. So being an empath in this time and space can be very tough. And I wanted to talk about this today because I wonder how many of you have empathic abilities and you don't even know. My hope is that this episode will help you to identify whether or not you are empathic, and hopefully I can provide some tips that will support you in thriving as an empath. Let me start by sharing a story about how I found out that I'm actually an empath. One day I was at work, I was getting settled in, getting ready for the day, and I was feeling good, y'all. I was at peace, I was balanced, and in comes my coworker. This was my first time being in a space with this coworker, right? My first experience being around her, sharing space with her. And as we got to know each other, I started to feel a shift in the energy. Prior to her entering the space, everything was cool, it was like clear, the energy was clear. But as we sat there, I started to feel this anxiety come over me, a heaviness, a pressure. And I knew something was wrong because prior to that, I was feeling fine, right? So I'm starting to consider where this could be coming from. Something tells me to mention how I'm feeling to my coworker, and I do. I say, hey, I'm sorry, but I was feeling fine and now I'm feeling really anxious and overwhelmed. Are you okay? My coworker says, oh my God, you are feeling exactly how I'm feeling. So later on that day, I was processing what had happened and I was like, oh my goodness, I was able to feel this lady's emotions, the heaviness, the anxiety, and all of that. There were also other experiences where I would enter into these spaces and I was feeling fine, right? Calm, peaceful, but then I would feel like this heaviness. There was another time I was at work and I was in the office with about 4 other women. I was feeling good, I was feeling balanced and peaceful, and then suddenly this heaviness kind of lands on me. And I knew from that first experience that it's very important for me to speak up when I'm feeling like that because something about speaking up clears the air. So again, I asked my coworkers, like, hey, is everybody feeling okay? Because all of a sudden I'm feeling really heavy. And one of my coworkers is like, oh my God, like I'm having the toughest morning. She said, I'm so sorry that you can feel how I'm feeling. And I said, there's no need to apologize. After speaking up, the energy cleared, right? So now this was 2 separate times where I picked up on the energy and emotions of others in the space. I spoke up about it, and me speaking up about it cleared the energy. So it was around this time where it became very clear to me that I had some type of ability. And at the time, I didn't even know the term empathic. I didn't know what that meant. I just knew I was picking up on other people's energies. What's crazy, y'all, is I can also feel other people's pain. So if a family member has like a knee pain or something like that, and I get close to them, no lie, I'll feel the pain in my knee. It was one time I picked up one of my family members' knee pain, and I was like, "Oh my God, I gotta get away from you. I can't take this pain." So I ran away, and then I felt better. So there's definitely benefits and challenges to being empathic, right? Just like anything else in life. I would say the main benefit is being able to sense the truth when people are trying to mislead me or lying. Yeah, that's the top benefit, I would say. I've had people pretend to be friendly, pretend to like me, but I can feel they don't really like me, or people will hide things and I'll feel that something is off because I can sense how they're feeling. The biggest challenge is definitely being overwhelmed in heavy spaces or spaces where a lot of people are not okay. And to be honest, that's everywhere right now. So many people are mentally unwell. So it's really difficult as an empath to spend time in spaces with a lot of people. And honestly, it's difficult to spend time in spaces with one person who has a lot of heavy negative emotion. I want to share some tips for empaths. So if any of this sounds familiar to you, please take these tips and see if they can benefit you in any way. The number one tip for empaths is that you absolutely have to get very comfortable and knowledgeable about your own energy. You have to know where you stand emotionally and mentally, energetically before you go into spaces with others. It just is so important for you to know who you are and what your baseline is. When you don't have that, it's really easy to get kind of caught up in other people's energy and emotions. As an empath, you are a sponge. You soak up the energy that is around you. If you're not clear on what's yours and what's not, it's very easy to take on other people's energy and not even realize it. Some of you are going into depressions because you're taking on the depressed energy of others in your environment. So you think you're depressed, but the truth is you're picking up on someone else's heavy energy. There are many ways you can get clear on your energy, but the ones that stand out to me are meditation and mindfulness. When you allow yourself space and time to be quiet and still, that's how you really tune in and tap into who you are, right? To your baseline, to your emotions and your energy. Honestly, I don't think you can get comfortable and become knowledgeable about your energy without meditative time and without entering into meditative states. So I encourage empaths to spend time in meditation, if not every day, every other day. Another way to support your empathic nature is through mindfulness. And mindfulness simply means you're not living your life on autopilot. You're aware of the movements you're making and what you're doing in each moment. There are so many things we do every day, so many actions we take every day where we are not even consciously aware of them. They're just things we do out of habit, and we're doing it on autopilot. Think about it. If you're on autopilot, you don't stop long enough to identify an emotion and say, wait a minute, where did this emotion come from? You're just moving through the day and you think, oh, I'm sad all of a sudden. So a mindfulness practice is very, very important. Mindfulness simply means if you're washing the dishes, you're focusing on washing the dishes. If you're taking a walk, you're focused on taking that walk. Just be mindful and present and aware of where you are in each and every moment. And your mind will always enter into that autopilot mode, out of habit, but you can bring your awareness back to your being, to your breath, to your body. Some other tips for empaths are after you identify what's your energy and what's not, you can rely on spiritual baths and items like crystals, smudging to really help you safeguard your space and support your wellness. Some of my favorite crystal recommendations for empaths is hematite, which is a black reflective stone, very good for grounding and protecting one's energy. Another is pyrite. Pyrite is known for its ability to kind of draw in money, right? But pyrite is also very, very good for empaths. A simple spiritual bath would be mixing some sea salt with water and then running that over your body and saying a prayer for cleansing and release of energies that are not yours. You may also use sage or Palo Santo to smoke out or smudge your home, right? To clear any heavy, negative, stagnant energy. Some people use sound bowls, right? And music to lift the vibration in their homes and just lift their own personal vibration. There's so much you can do to really safeguard your energy. Today's Gorgeous Guru prompts, which are questions for reflection or journaling, are: do the stories I've shared today sound familiar? Have you entered into spaces feeling fine, right? Feeling balanced and peaceful, but come out feeling energetically bogged down or overly emotional? For those of you who resonate with this, I want you to really pay attention to how you feel when you enter spaces versus how you feel when you come out of those spaces when you leave. There are so many people who are empathic that are taking on the energy and emotions of others and are not aware of it. If you are an empath or believe you may be an empath based on what I shared today, make sure you prioritize your wellness, your mental health, protect your peace. Do whatever you need to do to make sure you're well, okay? That's of the utmost importance. If you're enjoying the podcast, there are 2 ways that you can support the show. Consider making monthly donations by signing up at thegorgeousgurupodcast.com or become a paid subscriber on Substack. There you'll receive access to exclusive content such as episode deep dives and intuitive messages. Learn more at thegorgeousgurupodcast.substack.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. You could have spent this time doing anything, but you decided to spend it with me, and I am grateful.